In Prince Harry's autobiography Spare, he discusses the moments that he met Meghan Markle. Things didn't go very smoothly. There were traffic problems, some nerves, and some questionable responses. Reading these passages really opened my eyes to the relationship dynamics that were present even at the moment that they met. So if this sounds interesting to you, please sit back, relax, and let's get into these passages. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Okay, let's just jump right in. I'm going to start reading the text. The traffic was terrible. It was Sunday night. People were streaming back into London from their weekends in the country. Plus, I had to get through Piccadilly Circus, a nightmare at the best of times. Bottlenecks, construction, accidents, gridlock. I ran into every conceivable obstacle. Okay, let's stop there. So you can see that Harry already has some anxiety going into meeting Meghan. By this point, they had been talking consistently, and I would say almost unhealthily. The reason I say that is because Harry was unable to focus on the tasks at hand because he was so concerned about responding to the text messages he was receiving. And remember, at this point, they hadn't even met in person yet. So it's very strange to be so responsive and talking and exchanging so many text messages with someone you haven't even met. And this is in my opinion. The reason I stress this is because I went through this with my ex-husband. I was married to a narcissist, and this is exactly how my relationship with him started. It was constant texting before we had even met. I say now that there are 4 things that I no longer give away freely, and one of these is time. My time is precious, and if I'm investing my time in someone that I haven't met yet, I don't think that is the wisest investment for me. Let's continue with the reading. Groaning, sweating, mentally shouting at the mass of unmoving cars. Come on! Finally, it couldn't be avoided. I texted. Running a bit late. Sorry. She was already there. I apologized. Horrible traffic. Her reply, okay. I told myself she might leave. I told my bodyguards she's gonna leave. As we inched towards the restaurant, I texted again, moving but still slow. She responded, can't you just get out? How to explain? No, I couldn't. I wasn't able to go running through the streets of London. Okay, so I'm going to end that passage there, and I want to discuss a little bit of what's going on. Clearly, again, you see Harry's anxiety by him stressing that he was groaning, sweating, mentally shouting at himself, yelling at the cars in his head, come on, very apologetic. He mentions it twice here. He says, running a bit late, sorry, in a text message. And then he says again, I apologized, horrible traffic. Okay, so what are some things that we can take away from this based on Harry's response? I think he is incredibly anxious and he's late due to traffic and immediately feels guilty. This guilt, which is a situation that's beyond his control, reflects a potential pre-existing vulnerability, such as low self-esteem or a desire to please. If Meghan reacted negatively to his lateness, even subtly, this might exacerbate his anxiety, making him feel he had to make up for it somehow. A narcissistic person might leverage these types of situations to establish dominance, even by withholding reassurance or showing subtle disapproval. And I'll get a little bit into that. Okay, also I should mention that I believe that Meghan Markle is a malignant narcissist. This is in my opinion, and it's based on the way that she acts and how similar it is to my stepmom, who is a malignant narcissist. The other thing I want to mention here is that Harry is hypervigilant and focused on not disappointing her. He wants to meet her expectations. This hypervigilance could stem from her behavior in that if she had created a sense of high stakes around their first meeting. A narcissistic person might foster this dynamic, even unintentionally, by presenting themselves as someone whose time and attention are exceptionally valuable. A narcissistic person might create a dynamic where their time, presence, or approval is framed as a prize. Harry's self-doubt and anxiety could reflect this. He has a fear of her leaving, and this might indicate that she actually conveyed this subtly or overtly, these high standards she had for things to go a certain way. Another dynamic I want to mention is that narcissists often have this charismatic or confident demeanor, which unintentionally can make other people feel they need to adapt in order to please them or to avoid disapproval. If Meghan displayed this type of strong confidence or dominance in their interactions up till this point, Harry might feel that he needs to up his game in order to avoid rejection. In the engagement interview, we could see a little bit of Harry's desire to please her and feeling that he needed to up his game for her. I believe he mentioned that during the interview. I can't recall exactly what was said. If you remember, please go ahead and drop that in the comments. But you can see that Harry is adopting this almost people-pleasing attitude towards Meghan, and these dynamics were established even before they had met. I want to revisit also something that I just talked about, and it seems like maybe I might be contradicting myself. So earlier I said that I no longer give away my time freely, and then I said that narcissistic people may sometimes make it seem like their time, attention, and love could be a prize. There is a difference between healthy relationships progressing through time and trust developing through time versus having to earn a place in someone's life. There's a healthy relationship progression that can occur, and then there's progression that is based off of someone's behaviors and pleasing to the narcissist in order to progress to the next step. Please let me know how you feel about this and if this makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, now I want to get into Meghan's responses to Harry's anxiety. And this is the part that really, I don't know, it just felt like a punch in the gut. So Harry says he apologized to her horrible traffic, and her reply was just 2 letters, okay. When Harry apologizes and explains the traffic situations, Meghan's 2-letter reply lacks warmth or reassurance. This brevity might feel dismissive because it doesn't acknowledge his stress, it doesn't offer any empathy, or validate his apology. Then later on in the conversation, she tells him, why can't you just get out? To me, this question comes across as lacking understanding or sensitivity towards Harry's unique challenges as a public figure. This feels dismissive because it shifts the focus from his effort to get to her as quickly as possible to questioning why he isn't solving the problem in a way she considers simple or efficient. Meghan's responses also don't recognize or soothe Harry's anxiety about being late. For someone already feeling stressed and apologetic, such a detached tone might exacerbate the feelings of self-doubt or inadequacy. There appears to be an empathy gap. Instead of acknowledging his efforts or the difficulty of his situation, her responses are cold or uninterested, in my opinion. A more empathetic response, such as "no worries, take your time," would have shown understanding and eased his anxiety. There's also this criticism that appears to be happening. Why can't you just get out could be interpreted as a subtle critique of his approach, as if implying he wasn't doing enough to solve the issue, rather than understanding his constraints as a public figure. Harry's internal monologue shows his anxiety and concern about her potentially leaving, but her responses don't mirror or address that emotional intensity. This disparity in emotional engagement can feel dismissive to someone who's seeking connection or reassurance. Okay, so let's get into the last part of the text that I wanted to go through. It begins, "At last I arrived, red-cheeked, puffing, sweaty. Half an hour late, I ran into the restaurant, into the quiet room, and found her at a small sitting area on a low velvet sofa in front of a low coffee table. She looked up and smiled. I apologized, profusely. I couldn't imagine many people had been late for this woman. I settled into the sofa, apologized again. She said she forgave me. She was having a beer, some sort of IPA. I asked for a Peroni. I didn't want beer, but it seemed easier." Okay, so again, he apologizes multiple times. She acknowledges his apology after, 2 or 3 times. And you can see that he feels that she is out of his league because he says, "I couldn't imagine many people had been late for this woman." The real part, though, that got my attention, and in fact, this is the part that I read that I decided I needed to do a video about this, was the part that says, "She was having a beer, some sort of IPA. I asked for a Peroni. I didn't want beer, but it seemed easier." He didn't even want beer, but he felt in order to fit in, he almost had to have beer. So I think Harry feels pressure to align with her choice. Despite not wanting a beer, he orders it to avoid making waves or standing out. I think this shows that there is a subtle dynamic where he feels that he needs to conform to her. A narcissist might unconsciously or even consciously create an environment where their preferences take precedence, leaving the other person feeling obligated to follow suit to maintain harmony or approval. And again, remember, this is within 30 seconds, a minute of them meeting. I think based on this short passage that describes the circumstances of their meeting, we can see quite a bit of their relationship dynamics already playing out. I think Harry comes in with low self esteem, this eagerness to please, and anxiety. You can see that Meghan is not empathetic towards his anxiety just based on her short responses to him being late. They seem very cold and dismissive. And also, you can see that she criticizes his actions when she believes he's not taking action that she believes is appropriate. So I'm curious to know, what do you all think about this? Please drop it in the comments. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.